Well, good afternoon, and very good to see you all after a long time. There are two components to the briefing today. Uh, the first component, as you are already aware, will be about the first visit of Honorable President, first outgoing visit of Honorable President to Ethiopia and Djibouti. And then this will be followed by a regular press briefing, which I have not done for quite some time now. So for the first part, I have Dr. Nina Malhotra, Joint Secretary, East and Southern Africa, and Mr. Ashok Malik, who is the Press Secretary to the President. Dr. Nina will brief you on President's visit to the Ethiopian leg, and Mr. Malik will touch upon President's visit to Djibouti. Without any further ado, I pass on the floor to Dr. Nina.
Thank you, Ravish. Good afternoon, everyone, and very warm welcome to JNB. As Ravish mentioned, this is the first overseas visit of the Honorable President after assuming charge. This would be the first visit by an Indian president to Ethiopia after almost 45 years. The last visit by President V.V. Giri was held in 1972. Honorable President would be visiting Ethiopia from October 4 to 6, 2017. The visit is at the invitation of Ethiopian President Teshome. The program includes talks with his counterparts, President Teshome, who will also hold a banquet for him. There's a business event and an interaction with the Indian community. Honorable President will also deliver an address at the Addis Ababa Africa is chosen as the first destination of President's overseas visit. And that is actually an index of the importance that is attached to the African continent by the current government. As you are aware, Prime Minister has declared that Africa is a priority for the Indian foreign as well as economic policy. And in the last 3 years, we've had as many as 16 VVIP visits to Africa, 3 by the former president, 6 by Prime Minister, and 7 by the former Vice President. There is not even a single country in the African continent which has not been visited by at least an Indian minister during the last 3 years. We've also had 11 incoming visits by the African heads of states, heads of government, and this is in addition to the 41 heads of states and government from African continent who visited India for the India-Africa Forum Summit in 2015, a landmark event for which all the countries in Africa with whom we have diplomatic relations were invited, and all of them participated. This year, we've also had the first ever African Development Board meeting in India, in Ahmedabad, during which the vision document for the initiative Asia-Africa Growth Corridor was also unveiled. India also participated in G20 Conference on Africa and also hosted a number of Africa-centered events in the last 2 years. As far as Ethiopia is concerned, our relations are traditionally close and friendly. Ethiopia hosted the second India-Africa Forum Summit in 2011 in Addis Ababa, at which the then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh led the Indian delegation. We've had a number of visits from the Ethiopian sides also, including their emperor, their prime ministers, the previous and the current one. We have established institutional mechanisms with Ethiopia, and diplomatic relations were established way back in July 1948 and have been subsequently strengthened to cover the entire gamut of relations. As regards trade and investment, the bilateral trade between India and Ethiopia in the year 2016 was about nearly $1 billion. The exact figure is about $940 million. India's export comprise of primary and semi-finished iron and steel products, drugs and pharmaceuticals, machinery and investments, metal, plastic, linoleum, textiles, chemicals, transport equipment, etc. Our imports are mainly pulses, semi-precious stones, leather, cotton, oilseeds, and spices. India is among the top 3 foreign investors in Ethiopia, with approved investments of over $4.8 billion. Of this, an estimated $2.5 billion is already on the ground or in the pipeline. There are 622 Indian projects approved by the Ethiopian Investment Agency in Ethiopia. Most of our investments are in agriculture and textile sector. We have Indian textile mills making textiles there and generating a lot of local employment. We also have a unit of pharmaceuticals. We have investments in agriculture, floriculture, engineering, plastic, manufacturing, water management, education, and healthcare, etc. Other important sectors are cement, plastic, and of course leather. The Central Leather Research Institute and the Footwear Design and Development Institute, both from India, have been cooperating with the Ethiopian Leather Development Institute. There are more than 540 Indian companies in Ethiopia. India Business Forum in Ethiopia is the first forum of its kind, having a membership of more than 100 Indian companies who are having operations in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is also a beneficiary of duty-free tariff preference scheme of India and is eligible to export 94 tariff lines duty-free. Ethiopia, as one of the fastest growing non-oil producing economies in Africa, offers immense opportunities for India and Indian businesses. Ethiopia is also the largest recipient of long-term concessional credits from India. We have given nearly $1 billion of concessional credit to Ethiopia for 3 sugar projects, rural electrification, and power transmission lines. As regards education, it's another important area of our collaboration. Nearly 2,000 Indians are part of the faculty in Ethiopian universities, which is almost 20 to 25% of total university teachers in Ethiopia. A sizable number of school teachers in Ethiopia are also either Indian or of Indian origin. Ethiopia also happens to be a country which utilizes one of the largest number of training slots in India under the various scholarship schemes. In fact, currently the First Lady of Ethiopia and about 9 members of the cabinet, 9 ministers, are alumni of Indian educational institutions. As regards diaspora, the number of Indian origin people in Ethiopia is around 6,000, majority being investors and their employees and professors in universities. In the area of IT, the Indian Pan-African E-Network project phase 1 ran successfully both in the teleeducation and telemedicine sector. We have set up an India-Africa vocational training center in Ethiopia, which is running successfully. We are also planning to set up an information technology center in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is also very well connected with India. We have daily direct flights to Addis Ababa, both from Delhi as well as Mumbai by the Ethiopian Airlines. As regards some interesting facts about Ethiopia, it is, as I said, one of the fastest growing economies, not only in Africa, but also in the world, and also a young country. Nearly 60% of the total population is under the age of 25. So it presents an enormous potential consumer market. It's a big country, as big as France and Spain combined. It's also known as the cradle of mankind, with some of the oldest evidence for modern humans found in Ethiopia. Lucy, which is a 3.5 million years old human fossil, it was unearthed in Ethiopia. Ethiopia also claims to have a piece of original Holy Cross on which Jesus was crucified. It remains one of the, in fact, the only nation in Africa which was never colonized, except for a brief period of 5 years, 1936 to 41, when it was occupied by Italians. The country is home to 9 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, more than any other country in the world, in Africa. And coffee was discovered in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia remains a leading producer of coffee. The capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, is also known as the diplomatic capital of Africa. It has AU headquarters as well as some of the UN offices. Ethiopia is one of the most populated countries in the world, in fact, the second one in Africa after Nigeria, and also has the largest per capita density of cattle in Africa. Agriculture is fundamental to Ethiopia, representing almost 50% of GDP, over 80% of exports, and 80% of employment. It was among the first countries to sign International Solar Alliance Treaty. They are in the process of ratifying the same. Ethiopia is also one of the largest contributors to UN peacekeeping forces, both in Africa as well as in the world, and they are currently serving as a 2-year non-permanent member of UN Security Council. They are the founding members of UN, NAM, G77, OAU, as well as the Pan-Africa Chambers of Commerce and Industry. I'll be very happy to take questions if you have any on this visit or on Ethiopia. Okay, thank you.
May I now request Mr. Ashok Malik to brief the media about the Djibouti leg of the President's visit.
Good afternoon, friends. On the invitation of President Ismail Omar Guelleh of Djibouti, President Ramnath Kovind is undertaking a state visit to Djibouti on the 3rd and 4th of October 2017. Djibouti will be the first country President Kovind will visit after assuming office. This visit is also the first visit by an Indian head of state or head of government, an Indian VVIP in a sense, to Djibouti. The previous highest level of visitor from India has been a Minister of State. During the visit, President Kovind will be received by President Guelleh. He will have official talks with the President of Djibouti. He is also expected to be received by the Prime Minister of Djibouti, His Excellency Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed. An agreement on institutionalizing Foreign Office consultations between the two countries is expected to be signed during the visit. Agreements related to accelerated and greater economic cooperation are also expected. The Indian President Kovind, is also going to address the Indian community, which is a small community consisting of a few hundred people in Djibouti. Djibouti is an important Indian Ocean partner country for India. Our country has had trade relations with it for literally hundreds of years. Bilateral trade stood at $284.54 million in 2016-2017, of which India's exports to Djibouti were $281.71 million, and imports from Djibouti were comparatively small, $2.82 million. India has extended lines of credit amounting to $49.13 million to the government of Djibouti, mainly for the construction of a cement plant. Djibouti, as you know, is a very strategically located country in the Indian Ocean, just off the Gulf of Aden. In 2015, as part of Operation Rahat, India rescued and evacuated some 7,000 people from Yemen during the Yemeni crisis. About 5,000 of these were Indian nationals, about 2,000 were nationals from close to 50 other countries. Djibouti was very supportive and generous in providing an airstrip and logistical support to India while India was undertaking Operation Rahat. And in a sense, this visit follows that event and the happy episode. The President is looking forward to his visit. He recognizes that Africa and the Indian Ocean region are central to Indian foreign policy, and which is why these regions and this continent have been chosen for his first visit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malik and Dr. Malhotra. The floor is now open to questions. Yes, please.
Ma'am, my question is on Ethiopia. During the visit of the Mozambique leader, there was a discussion to import pulses from Mozambique. So are we also looking at increasing our pulse import from Ethiopia, given the shortage of pulses that we face from time to time?
We import pulses from 4 countries in Africa, from Tanzania, Mozambique, Malawi, and Ethiopia. Ethiopia, it's mostly chickpea, whereas tur, moong, and urad are imported from the other 3 countries. This year, we've had a bumper crop. So I think our imports from Africa and many other countries, including Myanmar and Australia and Canada, have also come down drastically. You may have also seen DGFT notifications putting a cap on the amount of pulses that we can import from these countries. So far, chickpea is not covered by the DGFT notifications, which is which is the principal kind of item which we import from Ethiopia as far as lentils are concerned. We are not contemplating signing of any agreement in the area of pulses as yet with any other country. Mozambique, the MOU stands and it is exempted from DGFT notification. Thank you.
China has set up a naval base on the coast of Djibouti. How India views this development, and is India and Djibouti also considering any joint defense cooperation agreement in some sectors?
India's relations with Djibouti and indeed with other African countries stand on their own footing. They go back many years. India's never really been a stranger to these countries economically or politically. What other countries do with them is entirely the business of those countries. So I don't think we need to comment on that. As for defense or other agreement, there is nothing scheduled yet.
What are the agreements with Ethiopia, if any, we are signing? And what is the composition of the President's delegation to the, visits?
We are working on a couple of agreements which may be signed during the visit. There may be a couple of announcements also. They are work in progress and you probably would hear about them during the visit. As regards the delegation, I think I'll leave that to President's office.
The delegation is still being finalized. It will consist of a minister who will accompany the president as well as a group of MPs, as is the normal practice. We've been having some difficulty in contacting some of the MPs because of the festive season. They are in their hometowns. The list should be available by this evening or tomorrow.
Any other question pertaining to the visit? Well, if there are no other questions, thank you, Mr. Malik. Thank you, Dr. Malhotra, for this coming here. Thank you. Thank you. Is on the visit of Dr. Abdullah, the CEO of Afghanistan, and his visit to India. We have actually shared a lot of information on the visit. There was a press release yesterday issued by the Prime Minister's office on his call on the Prime Minister. We had also issued a press release just before the visit was about to start. But few meetings have taken place on which we have not been able to share information. So I'll just go through this readout. Today is the second day of his visit. He is accompanied by the Minister of Commerce, Minister of Public Health, Minister of Energy, Minister of Economy, Deputy Foreign Minister, besides other senior members of the government of Afghanistan. Yesterday, Dr. Abdullah called on the Honorable President and met the Prime Minister. External Affairs Minister called on Dr. Abdullah and also hosted a lunch in his honor. Dr. Abdullah also participated at the India-Afghanistan Trade and Investment Show, which was inaugurated the previous evening on 27th September by Finance Minister Shri Arun Jaitley and Civil Aviation Minister Shri P. Gajapati Raju. CIM Shri Suresh Prabhu spoke at the show along with Dr. Abdullah on 20th September morning. Today, in the morning, Dr. Abdullah delivered 24th Sapru House lecture on regional peace building at the ICWA. Both sides positively assessed the recent developments in bilateral relations, including the outcomes of the recently concluded meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council on 11th September that was co-chaired by the foreign ministers of the two countries. The new development partnership was described as paving the way for the new generation partnership in development cooperation between the two countries, aimed at community development, infrastructure creation, and human resource and capacity building in Afghanistan. Views were exchanged on several issues. Some of the issues have been covered in detail in the Prime Minister's office press release. Both sides condemned the continuing acts of terror and violence in Afghanistan, including the recent attack at the Kabul airport, which had delayed the arrival of Dr. Abdullah to India. It was agreed that the issue of safe havens and sanctuaries needs to be addressed effectively. Views were also exchanged on regional and global developments of mutual interest. MOU on technical cooperation on police training and development was signed and formally exchanged at the meeting between the Chief Executive and the Prime Minister. This has created an enabling framework for training and capacity building for Afghan National Police personnel in various fields, in addition to India's ongoing assistance for Afghan national defense and security forces. Some discussion also took place on trade and economic cooperation. Better connectivity was emphasized upon. Both sides expressed determination to strengthen the air freight corridor and also welcomed the steps being taken to operationalize the Chahabar port, including the forthcoming supply of wheat to Afghanistan from October 2017. Afghanistan was invited to participate in the International Solar Alliance Summit being held in India in December 2017, and also to the World Food Processing Show being held in November 2017 in India, that would enable the Afghan businessmen to engage with the international markets. So this was a readout on still ongoing visit of the Chief Executive of Afghanistan. I have another readout on the India-EU Summit. This is the 14th India-EU Summit taking place on 6th October. And the President of the European Council, Mr. Donald Francis Tusk, and the President of the European Commission, Mr. Jean-Claude Juncker, will be on a working visit to New Delhi from 5th to 7th October 2017 to hold the 14th India-EU Summit. President Tusk and President Juncker will be accompanied by a high-level delegation, including EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, and Vice President of the European Commission, Mrs. Federica Mogherini. EU is India's largest regional trading partner, with bilateral trade in goods standing at US $88 billion in 2016. EU is also the largest destination for Indian exports and a key source of investment and cutting-edge technologies. India received around $83 billion FDI flows from Europe during 2000 till 2017, constituting approximately 24% of the total FDI inflows into the country during the period. India and EU are also strategic partners since 2004. The 13th India-EU Summit was held in Brussels on 30th March 2016. The 14th Summit aims to deepen the India-EU strategic partnership and advance collaboration in priority areas for India's growth and development. So this is the second readout, and now I am open to questions. Yes.
Ravish, this is pertaining to the remarks of Khwaja Asif, the Pakistan Foreign Minister at the Asia Society. He talked about a so-called prisoner swap that the NSA, quote-unquote, had suggested. And he talked about Kulbhushan Jadhav. And we've spoken to the Afghan NSA, and he has denied such remarks. He said that that wasn't discussed when the meeting took place on 21st. But do you think that this is a deliberate ploy to divert the attention from state-sponsored terror? And also, at the same event, he spoke about how Hafiz Saeed and Lashkar are a liability for Pakistan. Do you think that Pakistan has failed to act against these liabilities?
You see, normally I would not comment on a purported conversation between two personalities. But in this case, I will make an exception. You have already seen the press release which has been issued by Afghan National Security Advisor's Office. And if you have gone through the press release, it seems that this is one more addition to the long list of imaginary lies and stories which have been created by Pakistani establishment. You have seen what happened at the UNGA, how a fake picture was being shown to be from India, and it turned out to be from another country. So in Hindi, I can say that झूठ की कड़ी में एक और हमने उसको ऐड किया है. You see, I think our position on such terrorist and terrorist networks in Pakistan remains the same. You see, again, they try to project it in a different way, but our position on the terrorists which are operating out of Pakistan and the terror infrastructure which exists. We have time and again asked Pakistan to not allow these terrorists to operate, to destroy, dismantle the infrastructure which exists there. Yes, please.
In Myanmar, according to the Myanmar's army, Hindu graves have been found. First, are you in touch with Myanmar's government over this issue? And second, on 3rd of October, I believe there is a diplomatic community is going to visit the location. Is India also going to be part of that?
You see, we have seen the press reports about these graves. We have also looked at the statement which was issued by State Councillor's office. I can say that we condemn terrorism in all forms. We emphasize that there is no justification to any act of terrorism whatsoever which targets civilians in this conflict. We do hope that the authorities will be able to bring to justice the perpetrators of the crime. We hope that the families of the victims will be extended all possible assistance so as to instill a sense of security and return of normalcy. I am aware that the government of Myanmar, they have extended an invitation to the diplomatic corps to visit the affected region. I am aware of some of the media personalities from India being part of that. I am not sure about the participation from our side and at what level, whether our mission is participating or not, but I can get back to you.
Ravish, the Bangladesh government wants India to play a larger role in resolving this Rohingya refugee issue. Is India looking at mediating between Myanmar and Bangladesh in actually, coming to a solution to this 8 lakh refugees that have entered Bangladesh?
You see, if you notice the press release which has been issued by our High Commission in Bangladesh, we are focusing on the humanitarian assistance under Operation Insaniyat, and we have sent out 3 sorties of relief material. We are calling it family packs. Thousands of packets have been delivered. These packs, they contain essential items which can be used by the families who have been displaced and who are in Bangladesh. The 2 countries are in close touch. They are coordinating the situation which is developing out of the arrival of displaced persons in the country. We are committed to assisting Bangladesh and extending our full support in handling this issue.
सर मेरा सवाल भी म्यांमार से ही जुड़ा हुआ है। रोहिंग्या आतंकियों के चलते जो हिंदू मारे गए हैं म्यांमार में, वो तस्वीरें भी जी न्यूज़ ने दिखाई, हमारा रिपोर्टर भी वहाँ पर गए हैं। म्यांमार सरकार ने जैसा कहा है कि रोहिंग्या आतंकियों ने हत्या की है, तो क्या विदेश मंत्रालय के पास इसकी ऑफिशियल तौर पर म्यांमार ने जानकारी दी है कि उन हिंदुओं को किन्होंने मारा है और जो वहाँ पर अभी भी पीड़ित हैं, क्या विदेश मंत्रालय उनको कोई मदद थ्रू म्यांमार भेज रहा है? क्योंकि बांग्लादेश को तो आपने मदद भेजी है रोहिंग्या को।
देखिए, जैसा मैंने कहा कि इसके बारे में हमारे पास प्रेस विज्ञप्ति आई थी स्टेट काउंसलर के ऑफिस से। इसका मतलब ये है कि जो वो बोल रहे हैं उनके हिसाब से ये सारी जितने भी मास ग्रेव्स मिले हैं और उसमें जो लोग जिनका शव मिला है वो सारे हिंदूज थे। बट मैंने जो आपको अभी इसके पहले बताया कि हमारा और म्यांमार का जो रिलेशन है, रिश्ता है, उसमें हमने ये कहा है कि किसी भी युद्ध में और किसी भी सिचुएशन में अगर इनोसेंट सिविलियंस की जान जाती है, उनको डिस्प्लेस होना पड़ता है, तो ये बहुत दुखद है, ये बहुत खेदजनक है और ये हमने उनको अप्रोप्रिएट लेवल पे हमने बताया। वही तो मैंने बताया, हेल्प, जैसा मैंने कहा कि हम जो डिस्प्लेस होके आ रहे हैं और जैसा मैंने अभी आपको कहा कि हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि जो फैमिलीज़ हैं, उन जो लोग मारे गए हैं, उनकी फैमिली को पूरी सहायता और पूरा मुआवजा जो भी होता है वो दिया जाएगा। Yes, please.
My question is on Father Tom, who returned yesterday. He said there is goodness in everybody. So, as MEA spokesman, do you endorse his statement, and does it not amount to give some sort of certificate to the abductors?
You see, Father Tom is a very learned. He's a priest. You see, and he spent almost more than 1.5 years in captivity. And in his interaction yesterday with the media, he did say that there is goodness in everybody. You know, it's a philosophical question. It is not related to any foreign policy. So I think I leave it to your interpretation, how you want to interpret it. If I say yes, it could be my personal opinion, but I can't say that as the spokesperson of the government of India. Yes, please.
So there has been an upswing in India's military and defense cooperation with Afghanistan in the last 2 years. We have already supplied, in fact, 4 military helicopters to Afghanistan. And Afghanistan has been pressing for more military hardware supply by India. So has the issue actually figured during the talks Afghan CEO had with Indian leaders?
I had a readout on the visit of the CEO, and I did mention that several issues were discussed. On the defense cooperation itself, you are aware that India is involved in the training of Afghan security forces. This time we have signed an MOU which will provide a framework for the training of Afghan police personnel as well. But yes, I think all these issues, bilateral cooperation, the new development partnership, they were discussed during the visit of Afghan Chief Executive to India, and also in the previous meetings, when we had the Strategic Partnership Council in the first or second week of September. All these issues came up for discussion.
Sir, the senior Russian officials are telling us that the Afghan government in Kabul is in no position to defeat the Taliban, and they are basically saying that there is a status quo that has been reached as far as the strength equation between the Taliban and the Afghan government of Ghani and Abdullah is concerned. So in this context, do you think that by investing so much into Kabul, this is the right way to go ahead, or would you also say that you would like to engage the Taliban at least in some sort of a dialogue if others are also doing it?
This statement was made by, as you mentioned, by a senior Russian official, right? I think you will have to ask him, and perhaps also ask the Afghanistan side, whether they agree with this assessment or not. I can only share with you that we are in touch with Afghanistan, and we are also in touch with the Russian side regarding the situation in Afghanistan. And just to share with you that recently, in fact, just a few days back, we had the Russian President and Envoy for Afghanistan, Mr. Zamir Kabulov. He is an ex-ambassador to Afghanistan. He is also the director of 2nd Asia Division, which includes India, which looks after India in the Russian Foreign Ministry. He was in Delhi for consultations. He met a lot of officials, including from the Foreign Ministry, from the Ministry of External Affairs. So we are coordinating positions. We are exchanging views on the situation with a number of countries, including Afghanistan and Russia.
सर, भारतीय व्यापारी कुलभूषण यादव के बारे में जो आखिरी जानकारी हमें मिली वो उस वीडियो के ज़रिए मिली थी। उसके बाद हम लोगों ने काउंसिलर एक्सेस की बात की। अब जबकि पाकिस्तान के विदेश मंत्री कुछ इस तरह की बातें कर रहे हैं जो कि अदला बदली की तरफ इशारा करता है, हम आपसे ये जानना चाहेंगे कि कुलभूषण यादव तक एक्सेस के लिए हम लोगों ने जो प्रयास किए, जो रिक्वेस्ट हमारे पेंडिंग है, क्या उस विषय में कोई प्रगति हुई है?
देखिए, अदला बदली की बात तो मैंने खारिज ही कर दी। वो तो बेतुकी बात थी जो आई और गई, कहाँ से कौन बोल रहा है किसके साथ ये तो पता ही नहीं चला, और जिसके साथ बात हुई उन्होंने खुद खारिज कर दिया इसको, तो वो तो बात उसकी हम करें ही ना। मैं सिर्फ ये बताना चाहूँगा कि जो अपडेटेड स्टेटस है कुलभूषण यादव के केस में वो क्या है। जैसा आप लोगों को पता होगा कि 13 सितंबर को हमने अपना जो रिटन मेमोरियल है उसको सबमिट किया इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस में। ये जो है, जो हमारा ओरल सबमिशन हमने पहले किया था, उसी को बिल्डअप करके और उसी को हमने लिखित रूप में इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस को प्रोड्यूस किया है। पाकिस्तानी सरकार को 13 दिसंबर तक टाइम दिया गया है अपना काउंटर मेमोरियल सबमिट करने के लिए। तो अभी ये स्थिति बनी हुई है, उसके बाद कैसे किस तरफ हम लोग मूव करते हैं वो हम आगे शेयर कर पाएंगे आपको, इस स्टेज पर नहीं। अखिलेश नहीं, अभी तो जैसा है मैंने बताया ना कि वो तो मैटर इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस के अंडर है, तो जो भी होगा उसी से फ्लो करेगा आप। अखिलेश जी।
Sir, in the morning there was a lecture of President of, CEO Abdullah, and he was telling that there is no good Taliban and bad Taliban. India also thinks the same. So is there any way out? Whom will Afghanistan or whom will India talk to in Afghanistan? And is there any rehabilitation plan for Afghanistan people who wants to come to the mainstream of Afghanistan? Because there is a gap on this count that every country is donating to Afghanistan, but whoever is out of the whole mainstream, how they will be reinducted in the mainstream? Is there any plan discussed?
Thank you, Akhilesh ji. Today, the speech which was delivered by Dr. Abdullah at the Sapru House, it was an open event, you see. And after the speech, he also answered several questions. I wish that you would have addressed this question directly to him and got it from his mouth. You know, his speech, he mentioned about certain thing. We do agree, I think, and we have endorsed this in the past, that we do not distinguish between a bad Taliban and a good Taliban. There is a terrorism, and which we have condemned and in all forms. But this is a question which relates to his speech. I wish you would have asked him, you know, after, because there was a press interaction as well after that speech.
All of a sudden, China ordered all the activities of the North Korea should be shut down. So in that case, what the India is thinking? I mean, it is supporting or?
No, again, I have to say the same thing. When it is a matter which relates between any two countries, it is best addressed to them. But I can give you my position, our position on the recent missile testing by North Korea, and we have said, as in the past, you know, we continue to deplore such actions by North Korea, which we continue to say that it is a matter of deep concern that DPRK has once again acted in violation of its international commitments, which goes against the objective of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We do call upon DPRK to refrain from such actions which adversely impacts peace and stability in the region and beyond. We are also concerned about the proliferation aspect of nuclear and missile technologies, which has adversely impacted India's national security. If there are no other questions, thank you very much once again for coming to this press briefing. Thank you. Have a good day.